Okay, it is now 6:30, and I would like to call this City of Kyle Planning and Zoning Commission Workshop meeting to order. Can I have a
Scheibmeier?
roll call, please?
Sorry, Scheibmeier,
Here.
Carroll,
Here.
McCall, Christie,
Here.
Guerra,
Here.
Voss.
Here.
Item number 3 is citizens' comments. Members of the public that wish to provide a citizen comment can make it now. Do we have anyone who has called in and registered or whatever? We do now.
I'm not aware. I have not received any emails to my knowledge that anybody wanted me to read any comments into the record, and I don't see anybody on this call right now that I don't recognize.
Okie dokies. So with that being said, I will now close citizen comments. Number 4, general discussion. Continued discussion of proposed changes to the 2010 Comprehensive Plan Future Land Use Map. Discussion of the East Gateway District Character Area and next steps, schedule of events, and procedure to receive comments. Mr. Coons.
So you had a pretty short agenda this time. I really would have preferred to have wrapped this up back in October or at the latest at our first November meeting. That's not my reality. So tonight's meeting, I believe, will be short. The memo that you got had some backup materials in it, and some of that was the map that we've been working from for quite some time now, but it also has the narrative of the East Gateway. Finally was able to sit down and put that together. So I hope you've read it. I hope you've reviewed it. I hope that anything in it acceptably matches what your expectation was for how that would read as it gets installed into the comprehensive plan. We have some, the districts in there were immediately, the model for them was the new settlement, which is the same character area that encompasses Plum Creek, especially the second phase of Plum Creek, including Uptown. So that's where we started with the preferred and the conditional districts that would be allowable on our East Gateway. So the preferred is either high density residential or high activity commercial. There is some allowance for conditional uses of other residential and employment. But there are other things on there that are not recommended, and those things are low density residential, low density multifamily residential, and then some others that are, RV and transportation and utilities, construction, manufacturing. Some of those uses are probably not appropriate necessarily for high density, high activity, high turnover, high revenue generating, high employment type districts. So it's my expectation that if you have anything about that, if you have questions for the group, by all means, this is the venue. If you have specific things just for me that you want to see or not see, let me know your edits, either last weekend or or in the week going forward. So this comprises, probably 85% of the change that we talked about to the comprehensive plan, right? We needed a new district that represented the east side better. The map amendment is basically going to be the extension of the adjacent districts. We've already talked about that. We did talk about some other tweaks. We did that at the last meeting, carving out the niche along the gateway, the I-35 gateway regional node. Sorry, not gateway, the regional node, to cut out the neighborhoods, just to make sure that there's not a conflict between the neighborhoods and as existing and their potential redevelopment in the future. As well as some other tweaks that were in my notes for little things in the other character areas. But we're going to handle that, and that's not really for debate. That was already determined. But this is the big deal, that if there's anything that needs to be discussed, now would be the time.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
On the map, we have an additional local node that was added. On the land use map, if you could put that up.
I'm pulling it up. Give me 1 second. And then I'm going to here, and then I'm going to go here, and I'm going to do this. And you should now see that. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
The local node that's, the one that was added in, the little one by Riparian Landscape on the east side.
Midtown, and then there's one next to the. Oh, I got you. Sorry, yes, I see it.
It's in
That's
that pink
the
one. It's a
the
little
world
one.
class property. Yes.
Yeah, that's new from what was on the original map.
That is correct. That is a product of the work session that we had in October. That's related to the folks that are coming to town and want to put the activity center on that property that they purchased from the remains of World Class Capital.
That's what I was going to ask. Is that the item that we were talking about when my hair started to hurt when we had that meeting?
I mean, the question about that local node is whether or not the area out there is ripe for the activity that is supported in a local node. Meaning, is the street network there for the delivery trucks? Is the street network there for the trash trucks that will have to service the restaurants and the offices? The number of residences that'll be there. In the absence of creating an employment center for all those rooftops, those people are going to be leaving every morning and coming back every night. Is Heidenreich, Bunton, the as yet unfinished grist mill extensions, are those suitable now, or can they be made suitable at such time that that area, if it were a local node, if that were brought online, would the surrounding infrastructure be suitable? And then, even if they are, if the road is in decent condition, wide enough with adequate pavement, the connections that those roads make, will the regional intersections work, right? Grist Mill does continue east outside of our city limits into our ETJ and probably through some of Euland's city limit and ETJ, and then it meets up at 21. There's no signal at 21 where Grist Mill dumps into 21. Same story. Heidenreich comes down, and I'm going to call it to the south. It's really to the southwest, and it intersects 150 right there where the new gas station and convenience store is being built. It's the corner of what Pecan Woods, where Walton is going to build their Pecan Woods. That is not a signalized intersection. It's a three-leg intersection right now. There is a stop sign on Heidenreich, but 150 is through traffic. If you leave that future local node, and even if Grist Mill is done, somehow it's going to tie back into Goforth, somewhere in the neighborhood of the Bunton Creek, Goforth sort of area, which is, I'm calling it east of the high school. Your option at that point is either to go up Goforth and then catch BB, and that can take you all the way back to 35, or you can try and stay on Bunton Creek or Bunton Road, I guess at that point. I'm not sure what the moniker is, past the high school, and then past over Philomena and then back to the 35 frontage road that way. So all that being said, big picture, which our comprehensive plan is supposed to be big picture. We know, I won't say empirically, but enough of us have lived here long enough that we know the city and we know the folks that live on both sides of 35. We know that the east side of 35 needs revitalization. We know that the east side of 35 needs employment, and it needs quality amenities for the number of rooftops that we have over there. Is that local node the answer?
I really don't see it. I just don't see it. There's a lot of what ifs, too many ifs for that to be a local node.
Yeah, I forgot that other point. That a lot of the tie-ins, a lot of the connections, a lot of that infrastructure network is predicated on off-site improvements, right?
Yeah.
Grist Mill being improved on both sides is off-site from the world-class property. The wastewater getting to the plant is all effectively on-site. I mean, they do have to go across the Plum Creek, but literally the plant is, for lack of a better term, it's right there. the roadway network and water, getting water to it should be okay. There's water adjacent. The roadway and street network and the associated improvements with that. Some of that is multi-jurisdictional. Some of that is, definitely a multi-ownership arrangement. And then it's just a question of the sense of place, right? When you're at the high school, if you're standing at the corner of Lehman and Bunton, right there at the corner of the high school parking lot, that gives you a sense of place. As you move away from that, away from town, past the high school, past South Lake Ranch, and head down towards this, Bunton Creek Estates and Bunton Village, I guess, is the other one. Those are, pretty traditional, lower density, single family detached subdivisions, right? They used to be farm fields, and now it's a grid pattern of single family detached houses. Do you immediately beyond that, further from town, want to build the equivalent of a Plum Creek Uptown type development right there? Because as you continue away from town, down the Plum Creek watershed and that unnamed creek watershed, it just gets more rural until you get to the trailer homes that are there that front Heidenreich. So is it ripe, and is it right? Is the question for you?
My humble opinion, I don't think it's the place for it.
The
I
other
just don't
issue is
see
that you can get folks that will go in there with something that's less than the highest and best use. So just because we've made a local node over there, someone may conceivably put a gas station and a convenience store in the middle of that field because the comprehensive plan reads that it's supported. And if it's not conditional, then there should be no expectation that it's not available to be developed. Is that what we want to foster? I mean,
Anybody else have any opinions? Am I the only Ralph Mouth here?
No, I mean, I definitely have concerns, right? And my concerns are predicated more specifically on institutional knowledge of that site, because we've got local nodes on the west side of 35 that are equally as unlikely. The two that are the ones on the other side of the river, right? It's all the way. It's on the south central part of the city.
Right.
That fronts on a section of Lime Kiln. I don't know how many of you have driven back that way. But if you take Lime Kiln off of Post Road inside the city limits of San Marcos, drive out Lime Kiln, go on past Hilliard Road, continue on Lime Kiln out there until eventually the classification of that road continues to deteriorate until you get to a point where it's about a lane and a half wide. It's not paved. There's no curb. There's no gutters. There's no streetlights. And yet we have the opportunity for someone to apply a local node there. Same thing is true of the one that's due north of that on our side of the north side of the river. You've got one that's set up right now in the middle of what we traditionally refer to as Blanco River Ranch. It's got different marketing names now, but for the sake of clarity, we know it as Blanco River Ranch. It's on Cypress Road, and it is, if you look at the plan that they have for development of that, I'll call it a bubble plan, right? It's a series of large colored areas, and they have an expectation for some thoroughfares coming through there, and an expectation of creating some activity center for the rooftops to support the rooftops that are being built in Sixth Creek, and that ultimately will be built on the rest of those annexed properties to the west. They are, for a lack of all other things being equal, they are just about as ambitious as the world-class local node. The reason that the ones on the west side are a little less concerning to me right now is, one, the availability of wet utilities is much less over there. They really don't have the ability to tie in, and it will be really expensive for them to do so. And there is no plan that I'm aware that's been submitted to us that's imminent of development of those areas, putting in either subdivisions or employment or manufacturing or what have you. So they are although planned for, I believe that they're dormant. Not only is the land on which they're located not ripe, but neither are the projects. It's just because I know how long it takes for comprehensive area plans like that to come out of the ground. The one on the east side on World Class concerns me a little bit more because it's a little bit closer. It's closer to being reality. And so now we have to put pencil to paper and say, is this the reality we want for Kyle right now? There is a way it can go well. There is a way it can be done right. There is a way that it can work and be of benefit. But I need to be convinced, because there are a few ways it can go well. There are a number of ways in which it can go wrong, and we only really get one chance at it, because whatever gets built is likely to be in place for decades. So this is our chance to get it right.
I'm in agreement with Michelle that I don't think it is a good place for that. I think of the fact of, you were discussing one of the ways for the transportation to get to 35 is going down Bunton Road in front of the high school. And that's just going to lead to a lot of heavy trucks in an area that I don't think heavy trucks should be, personally. And if there's already traffic issues when school is in session fully with parking for just the students, and now we're going to add different size trucks and they're like heavier trucks traveling down that road. I don't believe that's a good idea, in my opinion.
Anyone else? Chime right in.
I mean, it's just as easy, and I don't want to get ahead to the next, sort of subset of this same agenda item, but the next steps is something that we need to talk about, and specifically, I wanted to talk about scheduling. But one thing we can look at is perhaps highlighting this on a map that we put in front of the public for their comment, and let them know in some way graphically represent that this is potentially proposed, and then leave it up to folks to leave a comment that says, yes, these lots should be developed with more commercial, or no, this is a residential district, I don't want businesses here. And try and solicit, because I don't want this exercise, even though it's just an amendment. I don't want this to be a top-down exercise. I don't want us to come to them as some sort of tribunal and tell the folks that live here what's going to or not going to happen. I want to give them the lesson. I want to give them the background data and stats that they need, and then just enough education that they can decide for themselves. I think Paul had a question.
I'm just saying, what's the likelihood of the transportation infrastructure being a priority for that area versus all the other challenges that we currently have? Probably not very high, right?
From the city of Kyle standpoint, I'm probably not the person. I'm not aware of if there is a CIP hierarchy of roadway improvements and refurbishment. I do understand that the Public Works Department is ramping up with both equipment and personnel, that they'll have a streets division, and the streets division should have folks that are competent to be able to rebuild some of the county roads that the city, as it expands, takes over. A lot of the roadway network that we're familiar with in Kyle was, obviously planned and built by the county with a certain expectation of performance. If you can expect that there's a certain number of residents in an area, then you can also make some scientific guesses about how much traffic you need to support that area. My favorite is always North Stagecoach on the west side of hometown. I'll bet 15 years ago or more, when that road went down between two farm fields, it had very little traffic on it. So those narrow little culverts with the tiny little concrete, buttresses on the side of the road, which you can look at now, that get hit quite a bit, probably cause a fair amount of damage to automobiles. That road was probably fine for the occasional school bus or trash truck. But today, and I've been here for over 5 years, I've never been on that road where I was alone. I always am following someone, someone's following me, or I'm passing traffic in the other direction. That road gets used quite a bit. And that is the story of the roadway network throughout Kyle. The further you get from downtown, the more you get to roads that were probably not designed for the way they're being used. I think Bunton Creek Road is sort of the same story. I can't imagine just knowing where it goes, like it goes down to Heidenreich, but you can keep going, past that. It really peters out into a very low density rural existence down there. I'm sure it wasn't built with the expectation of being able to handle the traffic like what you have now. You can see on the map, where you can see my cursor, all these streets, between these blocks is dozens of houses, right? And all these people we use a metric of about 9.4 trips per day. So going to work and coming home is 2. So there's a lot of trips that come from these single family detached homes throughout the course of a day and the week. Multiply that times all the subdivisions that we have. And we currently have 14-ish or so that are actively being constructed. There's a lot of work to be done. And I'm not sure how they are being prioritized between the city engineer's office and the public works department about what the funding mechanism is for the supplies and what the hierarchy or the priority is for what gets repaired and what doesn't.
I guess my point was more, there's already probably 10 number one priorities out there, or what the citizens would like to see worked on. And so we would add even further stress to that by creating a local node over there where the road infrastructure really isn't what it needs to be right now anyway, and exacerbate kind of the transportation situation.
And I'm going to guess that, the major construction that we've been doing in Kyle since I was here, it started around 2015, but I think that was a function of a vote at the 2013 election. And that was the road bond to pay for the improvements that did Marketplace, that was Burleson, that was Lehman, that was Bunton Creek from the interstate out to just before you get to Lehman. 1, 2, 3, is that the 4, right? That's the 4 of them, I think. So those were the 4 projects. I'm sorry?
Philomena was one of them.
Was it really the extension across that was part of the road bond project? The 2013 road bond?
But what used to be old Goforth before you got to the breadbasket between I-35 and the breadbasket, that was one of the road bonds.
Right.
One of the projects.
Yeah, I got that. So that was Bunton. I mentioned that one because that actually goes all the way down there to almost to where that doggy daycare place was next to Mr. Haverga's property. Anyway. So as far as funding goes, I don't know, and if it'll be a bond initiative to get that done, or if they're going to put it in the general budget, yearly budget. But that's a concern. Now, we have some availability with the adjacent lane mile fee, that those improvements go towards system improvements, but it's pretty narrow in how that can be distributed. They need to go for system improvements in the region of the project that are directly attributable to the creation of that project, right? It's a but-for argument. So if that local node gets built and they put in a 12-story office tower, mid-rise, for Kyle, that would be a tower. If they put in a big building that had a lot of trips per day, then you could expect that the money associated with the adjacent lane mile fee for that project would go towards the street network adjacent. But it's somewhat specious to say that you could put in a traffic light at 150 and Heidenreich. It's possible that traffic might come out and go all the way down Heidenreich and then go down to 150 and Heidenreich. But once you get so far away from the subject site, I'm not sure how well we are able to attribute the contribution from the development directly to traffic improvements that are too far away. So anyway, we'll talk all night about this if you give me the chance. You know that about me. So That's some of the things that I think about. If you have any more questions, I'll definitely take a look at it. But I think right now the best bet might be to put, a big asterisk next to that, and then put something on the map that says, proposed, please give your input.
That sounds good.
I'm in agreement.
I agree too.
Yeah,
Okay.
I agree.
All right, we can do that. That's a pretty easy fix. As I look at the map, I don't remember having any other questions per se.
I had one question. I thought we talked about that regional node there at 21 and East Gateway. That was going.
I don't think we've made that change yet. I know what
Okay.
you're talking about. We do want it to come down and capture all the frontage of 21 in the East Gateway. I remember that we are going to try and smooth those overs, but I don't think that we've made that alteration yet. I did take the notes, but this map should be largely the same way that you're seeing it from our meeting 2 weeks ago.
Okay. And I had another question on the text. If I can get flipped to it here. What was the OI? O-I?
Office
Zone.
institutional.
Yeah.
So it's a non-residential category for employment and for basically those services that support a city or another type of settlement. Things like city hall, police station, libraries, fire stations, museums, other types of what we would term institutional uses, and schools go into that quite a bit. But K through universities are institutional uses, and then office is finance, insurance, real estate, other professional services.
I didn't see that one defined in the Chapter 53 establishment of zoning districts. Maybe I'm just looking in the wrong place, but
It's
we
in
have to
there. It's
add-
in, I want to say, is it Article 2 of Chapter 53 where we start to talk about the different districts? I can dig it up. Will's probably looking for it right now.
okay.
Yeah, it's Article 2, Division 27. It's the very last zoning district we have before it gets into overlay districts. And then it talks about what you should find in it, and then the uses itself, primary and accessory uses, and prohibited uses.
Okay. Under Section 53-34 establishment of zoning districts, I didn't see it in the table right underneath there with the abbreviations. So that's
It's
throwing me off.
not. It's one of those ones that we created as not part of the general chapter or ordinance 438. It's one of those extra ones that's been tagged on in the last couple of years, and so just about everything about the OI district's actually built into Division 27 itself. Whether it's setbacks, height limits, parking ratios, that kind of stuff. The bulk standards, if you will, of that. It's easy for us to find because we look at it.
Is it not on the website? Must be in another place altogether.
It is. So under Chapter 53, let me pull it up. You got Chapter 53, Article 2, Division 1. Actually, no, not Division 1. It's Division 27 all the way down. About right before Article 3.
Well, mine's stops page 85, Article 2, Division 25. So I must have an old.
You have a hard copy of the zoning ordinance?
No, it's what I downloaded off the City of Kyle website.
Did you go to MuniCode? Did you get
No,
it off the website?
looks like it's coming directly from the City of Kyle.
Yeah, there's.
I'll find the Unicode.
Yeah, Unicode's updated.
Yeah, the MuniCode
Okay.
library, we pay them to keep it updated for us. So
Got it.
all right, if that's all we got on this, if you got any more comments about it, feel free to send me notes or texts or emails or whatever about potential updates. Because go ahead and get away from this. What I wanted to. Sorry, I'm lost. Here we go. So next steps. I guess I can talk general and then answer questions if you have anything specifically. Schedule events and procedure to receive comments. What I want to do in the short term, today is the 24th. I would like to be able to put all these together and then have it somehow digitally on the city's website, and then try and publicize it and get people to log into the website and leave comments. I would like to do that for the entire month of December. Really, leave it up for a good 4 weeks. If it were up and running by Monday the 7th or so of December, 4 weeks would be the weekend of New Year's. The end of the 4th week would be January the 1st, Friday, January the 1st. So it would be nice if it were up for the entire month and we kept hitting it on social media and everybody publicizing it as best they can. Full disclosure, I'm gonna have to work with communications and IT and figure out how exactly that's going to work. That we can open that up and get comments back from people. But then have the product of that at a excuse me. By the time we process that, have that together at a work session, which would be the 4th Tuesday in January. Talk about the feedback, talk about what we get back from the public at the January work session. And then get a sort of a vote of confidence that moves forward to make amendments and start the public process of actually voting on the amendments in the February meeting. And then the February voting meeting, and then after that, it'll go to council. So this would likely be wrapped up probably in the middle to the end of March. Questions, comments? All right, good. On 3 break.
Is that all? Is that it?
I think. I mean, I have more ideas, but they're not necessarily for this group. I'm more concerned with both concepts and nuts and bolts of the actual document itself. If everybody's happy and comfortable with the document itself, we can get the product of these discussions that we've been having since, we introduced it late August. We started in September. We can get the product of those discussions put together in what I'd call, an 80% document, which still leaves opportunity for any minor amendments if folks want to make those. Let them know what we're thinking, and then try and get their virtual attendance and their virtual input, without actually having to coalesce everybody together. I honestly have done this process about a half a dozen times in my career. I've never done one without having the folks in the room. I've never done this where as a multiple choice exercise, essentially, is what we're doing. We're presenting a map, we're presenting a couple of edits, and we're saying, select which of these you like, up to and including all of them. If you don't like one or more of them, please give a comment on why. And then taking that back, crunching that data into something that can be put back forward to you, where you'll see the product of the input and realize that that's why we're moving forward. So that's all really. The rest of this is just technical details that I need to work out with city staff.
Okay.
When we know more about what it is, where it is, when it is, how to get to it, we'll publicize that to you, send you out an email so that you can put it on all your social channels, Facebook, Nextdoor, Instagram, whatever, MySpace. I don't think that's even a thing anymore, but you know what I mean. Just go out there, and we got a big billboard downtown. Maybe we could put it on that nice new shiny digital billboard. That's, just some of the ideas that I'm putting together.
Howard,
Yes.
for South Lake Ranch, I know the property management company, so we can probably get something put together to give to their HOA and get posted on. We have a town square app is what we call it, where we communicate with our HOAs. They have one for theirs. We could probably get put on their app.
Howard, you're on mute.
You went away, Howard.
Howard, you're muted.
It says my audio is not working.
Now you're all right.
We hear you.
You can pause. Do you hear a replay? I have no idea why Ring Central Meeting is having me go through and do a. You can
It's
see
your lucky night.
I'm still at my desk. I'm just cursed, man. I don't know. The first computer I ever got must have come from some ancient burial ground or something. And since then, every computer I've ever touched, I have had no problem messing it up. And all I do is just turn it on and it's just downhill from there.
I'll let you use my excuse. I always say it's my electrifying personality.
There you go. Yeah, that'll work for you, Howard.
I mean, we started this meeting with me trying to figure out iTunes. It's only been around for 15 years or whatever. And I'm still looking at it like it's advanced calculus. Anyway.
Okay, Mr. Coons, do you have anything else for us?
Nah, probably let you all go home.
Okay. Item number 5 is adjournment. I want to hear a motion.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I move we adjourn.
I have a motion. Can I have a second?
A second with a happy Thanksgiving.
Okay, we got a second with a happy Thanksgiving. Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
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 All those opposed? We are out. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Enjoy.
Bye.
Good, guys.
Bye.